Hello everyone, my name is Sam.
And I'm Jacob, and welcome to Geeking Out About It.
We're back, and this week we decided to talk about one of my favorite things from my childhood, Indiana Jones. Now, you might be able to tell from all this set decoration that says Raiders of the Lost Ark and Temple of Doom on it, but I'm a big fan of Indiana Jones, and it inspired me throughout my childhood to be the adventurous person that I am today.
Right, and it truly is an incredible action-adventure series. Really, it is iconic. It is known throughout the world, and I mean, I'm pretty sure you'd know that theme song anywhere.
Indiana Jones is a household name.
It is.
And the music along associated with, made by John Williams has really put it to that next level. And it's something that is very dear to me, and probably many of you out there watching the show.
Oh, absolutely. But the first thing we should talk about is Raiders of the Lost Ark, right?
Yes.
So good. Especially that first 10 minutes of that movie, that introduction. Pure gold, pure gold.
The introduction pretty much sums up Indiana Jones's character in one easy motion. Everything that happens in that movie, it establishes what's happening. And I love the fact that you don't see Indiana Jones's face until he goes up in this confrontation against one of his own guys, and then he steps into the light, revealing his face. And Harrison Ford's probably one of his most iconic roles besides Han Solo.
Absolutely, and of course we have this huge dramatic open of this massive mountain and this black silhouette, and it really it sets the tone for the movie. It sets this powerful tone of strong morals and dynamics, and this fight between good and evil, and it's really a powerful 10 minutes, and it sets the expectations for the rest of the film, and a very high bar.
Another thing that this movie accomplishes is that it also sets up the main villain within the first couple minutes. Because you see Indiana Jones going through the temple trying to achieve his goal of getting the idol. In fact, we have the idol right here, where it is this little MacGuffin that they use as a plot device to get you introduced to the environment, the story, and what the movie's going to be about. And Belloc comes in and he snatches that away from Indiana Jones, and it really kind of makes you understand that, oh, this guy is just going to be a thorn in Indy's back the entire time, isn't he?
Right, and in the first 10 minutes of that movie, we have three hugely iconic scenes, right? We have the bullwhip, we have the rolling ball, and as Indy's running, boulder. And we have the beautiful coin, or sand in this case, exchange. All three iconic, and I'm pretty sure they're in so many movies that's countless at this point.
Yeah.
But I think they really pulled all three of those together, and it sets a beautiful tone. I agree.
It's a visually stunning introduction to Indiana Jones, and all that stuff sets it up to where you understand exactly what's happening in the rest of the movie, where we also see him going after a nice spiritual artifact, the Ark of the Covenant, and all of these kind of dangerous things that he goes up against, whether it be snakes, which, by the way, I absolutely hate snakes, so I share that with Indiana Jones. But like, it makes you understand absolutely everything you need to know, and it's probably the best introduction to a movie that's out there.
Right, it's very Spielberg as well. So well done, it's beautiful, and it has this calm serenity, and then it slowly eases you into this action, and then once it kicks in, you're along for the ride for the whole movie, but it leaves you feeling so good.
It's an adventure, and it brings you along with the adventure in a visual and musical way. And I think that's pretty much everything I needed to say about the introduction, but I need to go check something out for another segment. I want to make sure that we got a nice space cleared out.
Right.
So you handle 2-minute history. I'll be right back.
Sounds great, off I go. So Indiana Jones has inspired many of us to go out and explore, to embrace the daring, and to lean into the adventure side of ourselves. Those effects have hardly worn off after 40 years since the first movie. The movies were directed by Steven Spielberg and co-written by George Lucas. Lucas drew inspiration for Indiana from prominent archaeologists at the time like Hiram Bingham, Roy Chapman Andrews, and Sir Leonard Woolley. He also looked to the 1930s action heroes to make one of the most iconic action-adventure series ever made. The name Indiana Jones has a personal meaning to Lucas, as the character's name Indiana comes from his Alaskan Malamute he owned in the 70s. The making of these films began a couple years after the huge success of Lucas's film Star Wars: A New Hope. Lucas was under extreme pressure and had more attention on him than he knew what to do with. So he flew to Maui to escape and go on a vacation. By some stroke of luck, both Spielberg and Lucas were in Maui in 1977. While visiting, Spielberg told Lucas he wanted to work on a James Bond film. Luckily, Lucas had an idea he thought was much better than that. He pitched Raiders of the Lost Ark to Spielberg, and he loved it. He is quoted as saying, "a James Bond film without the hardware." The movies have been so influential. There have been comics, dozens of novels, games, and even a ride at Disneyland that opened in 1995. A great ride as well. But more importantly than any of this, there's a direct correlation between the first Indiana Jones movie and the number of college students getting archaeological degrees. Archaeology regained popularity, and if you look at the employment numbers, the steady decline in archaeology reversed and went on the rise as these amazing movies came out. Many archaeologists have been quoted as saying that Indiana Jones is what sparked their interest in their professions to begin with. Not only have many people become inspired to be archaeologists, but we can see influences from the movie on archaeology throughout the world. National Geographic has a show that was made because of the Indiana Jones series, along with a museum exhibit. The films have strong morals and encourage respect for cultures and historical artifacts. Indiana has always fought to keep artifacts out of the hands of evil, and these films have made over $2 billion. It cannot be understated how impactful they have been for countless people, especially for the archaeological scene. With that, let's see what Sam found. What'd you find?
Okay, so I found a pretty nice chamber. By the way, it is really echoey over there, and I heard everything you said, and I like what you were talking about.
Great. We'll have to use it later.
A little bit of interesting history, but it's also pretty dark in there, so we're gonna have to find a way to deal with that. But anyways, there is a lot based off of everything you were talking about, how people inspired to do things because of Indiana Jones, and part of that is probably due to the amazing characters that are in the movie. But before we dive into that, let's go to this segment, which we call the lineup. Welcome back. Now, let's talk about some of these amazing characters that really established the Indiana Jones series. So, first things first, we got to talk about Belloq. Now, Belloq is the first villain that we see in Indiana Jones. He is someone who's just a thorn in Indy's side who wants to take absolutely everything away from him.
Right, really an evil character. And then we go to Marion Ravenwood, and she is the first love interest we see in Indiana Jones, and it's established that those two have a history. It starts out with her slapping him in the face and not being happy to see him, but soon they regain that kind of kindle of passion for each other, and she shows up throughout the rest of the movie, follows him on adventures, and even shows up in one of the later movies.
Yeah, she has a very strong introduction. You know who else has a strong introduction? Todd, the German boogeyman. Now, he is essentially just an enforcer for the Nazi Party, and he is going around and he is just an evil guy.
He's a great plot device, though.
Extremely evil, though.
Yeah, and then we have Saul Law, who is Indy's good friend. You know, he shows up in multiple movies, he's always there for Indy, and he always has those connections that are needed when they're most, appropriate for the plot of the movie and kind of what's needed to set the tone.
Moving into Temple of Doom, we have Willie Scott, another one of Indy's love interests. She doesn't contribute a lot to helping Indy on his adventure, but she is kind of a device that gets him on the adventure in the first place.
Right, she's along for the ride.
She also is one of the people that gets to be introduced to my favorite character. I'm stealing this from you.
Absolutely.
Short Round. Short Round is the coolest character to come out of Indiana Jones. He is a kid that when I was a kid, I grew up watching this kid kick cultists in the face, and what more can you ask for? He is a very special person to Indiana Jones, and the relationship between Indy and Short Round is a strong one at that.
I also have to agree that Short Round's probably my favorite character. And then we have Mola Ram, who is...
Mola Ram.
Mola Ram. He's the bad guy, right? He's a cultist. He's trying to reestablish his cult and bring back this evil goddess. And he's kind of the cause of a lot of pain for people.
He's evil to the extent of being comical because of how evil he actually is. Up next, we have Marcus Brody. Now, Marcus Brody is a curator for a museum, and he's one of Indy's friends who is working with him to try and protect artifacts. And he's the kind of guy who you think could get lost in their own museum.
Yeah, which is sad. You should also do Walter.
You know what? Yeah, I'll steal Walter from you.
Yeah.
Walter Donovan is another one of those people that is an amazing artifact guy who has a kind of evil twist to him, is what I'll call it. He gets what he deserves at the end of the movie, though.
He really does. And then we have Elsa Schneider. Now, she happens to be in the beginning of the third movie and is this evil person, but we don't know that yet. It sparks this love interest. We see that same love plot, and then it twists and becomes a really beautiful connection between Junior and Senior. And it's really a powerful thing. But she is truly evil.
One of those people that is truly evil in that movie is Vogel. Now, he's basically Boogeyman Part 2. He's another Nazi enforcer, except I think his job is more of not being creepy and more of just punching Indiana Jones in the face, and he does that a lot.
He really does. And then we have Henry Jones Sr., probably one of the better characters. He's so dynamic and powerful, and he learns throughout the third movie to defend himself and to kind of step into his shoes, and he sees his son, operating in the real world, which he hasn't really seen before, and that connection starts to develop in that movie. We start to see how deep that relationship really is, and it's really beautiful to see, which probably makes The Last Crusade the best Indiana Jones movie. I wouldn't say my favorite, but probably the best.
Now, the chemistry between Henry Jones Jr. and Henry Jones Sr. is very, very much in your face because it is really special to kind of watch. And growing up watching these movies with my dad, it was something special for me and him to kind of bond with, is watching these movies. So I think that's enough about the characters, though. And we're going to take a quick break, so stay tuned. We'll be right back.
To generations from around the world.
Ability to play their own game.
That polar front coming straight down. I joined Orange Beanie Network as a freshman. I think it was my second week of being a freshman here, and I was looking for an opportunity to get involved in something on campus. And I had done a little bit of high school journalism, not a lot, but I came up here to the 4th floor. I saw the TV studios, I saw the radio booth, I saw all the computers, and I thought, this is super cool. This is something I want to get involved in. And I joined the barometer team as a freshman. I learned so many things that I would have never learned in a classroom. Not only did I learn how to do journalism, how to design a newspaper, how to produce a TV show, I learned skills on top of that that are definitely going to help me in whatever I go do with my life. These past 4 years, OMN has meant to me to be a place where I can come and be myself, where I can come and challenge myself, push myself, learn and grow. It's a place where you come up here and you think you know who you are, you think you know the type of leader that you are, the type of person that you are, but you'll look back as a graduating senior 4 years later and think, wow, I am not the same person as I was when I stepped on this floor the very first time as a freshman. My name is Lauren Sless. I am the producer of Spotlight at KBVR TV at Orange Media Network.
Man, this part of the chamber is really echoey.
Yeah, it's the biggest one we have, though.
It's also really dark in here.
Oh, you know what? Let's light these torches.
Hello everyone and welcome to a different part of the temple. Now we wanted to make sure to find a spot that didn't have any objects or props in the way that we could potentially run into during this new segment.
Now this new segment we're calling the Learning Hour. Even though it's more like a couple of minutes, it's still a bit of fun. So we wanted to be able to sit down, or in this case, stand up and learn something or be able to teach you something. And this week, Sam has something kind of fun and special for us. He didn't tell me what it was, but he assured me it would be fun.
Yes, so this week on the Learning Hour, I will be teaching everyone in the audience how to do stunt punches. Now, it is a very big part of Indiana Jones. I know it's fun. Stunts are fun. So Indiana Jones has a lot of stunts. The movie is built around stunts. There are some really iconic moments that come from stunts, whether Indiana Jones is riding a horse, doing some jumping onto a tank, or punching a Nazi in the face, which is probably the most common feature of Indiana Jones. But with that, I wanted to make sure that I didn't want anyone to get hurt, so I asked Jacob to please leave the stage while I do this segment, as I don't want his face getting beat up, because he is a merchandise for the show. So.
Please don't get a suit.
I will do my best, but now I'm going to have to ask you to please leave. Perfect. Now that Jacob is gone, we can get started with this segment. Now, it'd be really weird for me to show you guys how to do stunt punches without someone to receive the punches. So we have a volunteer, our lovely floor director, Chance. Please come on stage. Now, I want to preface again, he volunteered to do this, so it's not my fault. All right, so Chance, welcome. Now, I know that might have made you question that a little bit, but it's okay. You still good with everything we talked about?
Yeah.
All right, so stunt punches. There are a lot of different types of techniques that you need to do when you take this in mind. You want to make sure that everyone is focused up on what their task is. So if you are the one throwing the punch, which will be me, I want to focus in on not actually coming into contact with him, and he has to focus in on reacting to the motion. So go ahead and bring in that little stunt camera that we have right there. So we're going to bring in this camera that's going to focus up on the close-up version of the shot. So it's going to get under a nice frame. So when you're throwing punches, you want to have like some really good form behind it. You want to make sure that you get your hips into it. You want to make sure you get your arm in a straight form. And you want to have everything in line so that way you don't hurt your wrist if you do actually punch something. So with this, just go ahead and focus on that middle of the screen right there. Get your hands up like you're ready to do something. Okay, it's fine, we're all good, we're good.
I didn't know you were gonna actually punch me.
Sometimes that can happen in a stunt, but it's all about powering through for the stunt. Now, you'll notice that I hit him in the face, and that's because hitting someone in the face looks really good. In fact, they do it a lot in the Indiana Jones movies, and that's because punching Nazis in the face, and it looks clean as heck. So, look at this. You're fine, you're good, Chance.
Again?
You're good. Yeah, it's all okay. And now, getting hit in the face hurts.
It does.
So, when you don't always have to go for the face, because there can be some really good stunts that can come from hitting people in other places. Just so they're good. That looks really good. And then you can also hit them in the back and get them to the ground. Now, it's all good. You okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess. Why couldn't you just do this on the mannequin?
That's because David Mannequin doesn't have nearly as good as reactions as pure, authentic humans.
Sam, why are you punching our stage director?
He's fine. Yeah, it's just we're doing stunt punches.
Stunts.
Right, it's all about the framing of the camera and getting things set up in a way where you're not actually harming each other or doing anything incredibly dangerous. So my fist is actually about this far away from his face whenever I'm throwing those punches, so it's not actually coming into contact with him. But he was doing a fantastic job of reacting to those punches, and that's what really sells it. Notice that this camera right here is lined up in a way where the horizontal, I can make it look like I'm hitting him in the face right there. But if I were to punch from this angle, it doesn't nearly look as good. So it's all about framing and getting that set up in a motion where you can do it in the safest way possible. And that's what they did when filming Indiana Jones. So thank you for joining us in this learning hour. When we come back, we're going to be talking more Indiana Jones and more on the show. So stay tuned.
Welcome back as we continue talking about Indiana Jones. There's a fourth movie that we haven't really discussed yet because it doesn't hold up like the rest of them. I personally don't like the fourth movie.
Oh, you're just really getting right into digging into that fourth
we're
movie.
gonna dig right in. I personally don't like it. It sets a different precedent for me, and it's, it's like the mountain and the molehill, right? The other movies we start out with, there's this beautiful scene of a mountain. It's so beautiful. It shows us a landscape, and then in the
It's a
fourth
spectacle
movie
environment.
we have a molehill.
Yeah, look at this.
With a bad CGI gopher.
This is the first thing that you see out of this movie.
Right.
The Indiana Jones 4 establishes kind of a lackluster tone in the first 5 minutes. It's sad.
Right, and it's so forced. The jokes aren't as good, and the whole movie just seems to have this kind of absent air to it.
Now, before we elaborate more
Right.
about the fourth movie, we need to start telling you why we're considering it to be bad compared to the other 3 movies. Now, the other 3 movies have a very strong tonal setup. Each of them have this kind of thing where they have a back and forth with all the characters. There's relationships built. There's Indiana Jones coming in as a skeptic and then going throughout this kind of faith-oriented thing. And there's this adventure about treasure and action and all this stuff that really builds it up. But the characters are always a driving force. The characters always make a decision that impacts the story in some way.
Right, and by the end, the first 3 films, by the end of them, you feel a connection between the characters, and Indiana has made a connection to either the relic or the characters or the story. There's an emotional bond that he's formed throughout the movie that you see him start to have faith in something, and that isn't in the fourth movie.
And that's probably due to the driving factor of that they are making choices that are difficult in those movies. There's a lot of stuff going on, whether it be the Ark of the Covenant releasing and killing a bunch of people, and cultists doing a lot of stuff, or having to make the critical decision of choosing the right cup. There's so much stuff that's a driving factor for these difficult decisions, but in the fourth movie, there's kind of a missing aspect of that in the nature of they're just along for the ride. If you really think about it, the characters don't make too many decisions. They just kind of go from one section to another section, and the story kind of just pushes them along the butt saying, yep, keep going. You're on an adventure, you better stay on that adventure.
Right, and I mean, we have to give the movie this. Geopolitically, it wasn't really advantageous for them to do this in the Middle East, where the other movies had been, and in the Europe scene. These movies were filmed in North and South America, and they added this element of sci-fi in, and I don't think that sat well with Indiana Jones.
We'll elaborate more on that later, but one thing that I do want to really quickly establish is that they kind of set it in a different. The movie is set in a different timeline. If you haven't seen the movie, it's set in the 50s instead of the 30s. So the movie has a different time because Indy's older. He's more of a professor than he used to be. He's out of the adventure game, and he has been for a while. And I think that's kind of an important thing. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing because there are ways that it could have been done where that's actually really interesting because then it's seeing him, gotta get back into the game, But it wasn't really kind of proposed to us that way, and there wasn't much of a successor to the heroic adventurous title of Indiana Jones in his son Mutt, who they kind of teased would be that, but it didn't really hit the punch like we hoped it would.
Yeah, it seemed more lackluster than it should have been. Yeah. And Mutt didn't have that same driving force that Indiana had. It wasn't that same spirit that we grew used to in the first 3 movies. And it could just be that it was the really huge change between the third movie and the fourth movie. But it just didn't sit as well with the storyline of Indiana.
Another contributing factor for this is that the characters are not as strong as they were in the other 3 movies. And we talked a lot about the characters in Indiana Jones, but we very much restricted it to the first 3 movies. And that was for a reason, because in the fourth movie, the characters are not nearly as developed, or the villains aren't nearly as threatening. They come off like a joke almost. Everything's they take it seriously in the same way that Mola Ram was very serious, but it was too much of a joke because the main Russian antagonist lady is just very much whoop whoop the entire time, and
yeah.
it doesn't come off in a very good light for her character.
Irene is overplayed and it's robotic.
Yeah.
And I know that's kind of the movie's MO because it was a much more lighthearted movie, but it wasn't to the true spirit of Indiana Jones.
Yeah,
it was supposed to be
authentic.
Dirty and gritty and authentic, and this didn't have that same feeling. And the terrible CGI didn't play it any favors either.
Yeah, that CGI was not the best thing in the world. I just want to address real quickly. Like, we're not going to show it just because we don't want to point things out too much. But if you've ever seen the movie, you know that the scene where Mutt swings on the branches with the monkeys, it's not exactly the best scene in the world.
The CGI animals don't play in the movie's favor. They don't make it stronger. So on top of it not having the same feel as the other movies and the characters not being as strong, the CGI lets it down. And of course, in the previous 3 movies, there's some
practical.
Yeah,
they're practical.
They're practical, and there's a couple CGI moments where it's like, oh, okay, that was obviously some CGI, but
faces melting was kind of not CGI.
You didn't care.
Melted. Yeah.
You didn't care because the story was so good that you're just like, oh, I know exactly what happened.
Ghosts, though.
Right. But I think it's important that we, also discuss the religious aspect of the first 3 movies that wasn't in the 4th movie, and why that's important.
That's kind of a really big thing, because if you look at the framework of the first 3 movies, they have a spiritual buildup. Each of the objects that are going after, the Ark of the Covenant, the Sankara stones, or the Holy Grail, they're all very religion-based items of importance. And Indiana Jones comes into looking at those as a skeptic himself. He doesn't believe in the power of the items, but he does believe that they're out there somewhere and that he wants to find them.
Right, and part of the power is that he finds the faith in those, and he has to take a literal leap of faith in many of the movies. It's a full journey, and then you feel connected, and you can see Indiana grows a connection with the people he's searching with and with the object, and believing in the object and acknowledging its power. And we don't see that with the Crystal Skull.
Yeah, it's almost as if the first 3 movies were all about the bond, and then the 4th movie was just about, look it's aliens.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed so sci-fi that raw connection wasn't there. But besides all of that, I still think I love them. Indiana Jones is amazing, it's impactful, it has that adventure, and it means a lot to a lot of people. I mean, you specifically, you grew up with them. I mean, I've watched them a few times, but I didn't grow up with them as heavily as you did. But still, like, they always leave me feeling good.
Yeah.
After every movie, I'm like, yes, I want to watch another one. I can watch them all day.
Yeah, it's some of my favorite things. But I find myself going, I want to watch Raiders of the Lost Ark, I want to watch Temple of Doom, I want to watch The Last Crusade, but I don't ever really find myself going, I want to watch that Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Right, I agree, I feel the same way. I don't feel that connection with it because it doesn't have that same feeling for me as the original 3. But we may be getting a 5th one coming out in July of 2021. So I think they're working on productions, and we know Harrison Ford is in it. And there's a possibility that Shia LaBeouf's in it. So we'll see what happens.
I'm interested to see where they're going to take it from here, because it's vastly different. Because we're making a movie, it's so advanced, and they've got all the feedback from how we felt about the 4th movie. But I'm looking forward to see where they go with that. But unfortunately, I'm pretty sure that is all the time that we have for tonight's episode. So we hope you enjoyed it, and we hope you tune in next week as we talk about another topic. Also, check out more content by KBVR TV, and check out our YouTube page where we post full episodes and so much more. If you want to keep up with the rest of the shows and KBVR TV's awesome productions, you should also check out our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages, where we post constant updates and tons of extra content. Thank you all for watching, and goodbye.
It's okay. We're still getting back.
To generations from around the world.
Ability to play their own game.
That polar front coming straight down.